That kid thread? I'll start. That kid who drew Pokemon inflation art who you had to sit next to.
That kid that had a seizure during the mile run so we didn't have to do the run.
That one kid burned a swastika onto the football field. That one senior set for a prestigious UNI but streaked butt naked on homecoming and got caught by the teachers when he failed to jump the fence, getting rescinded.
That one kid that shot himself in the face with his father's shotgun in his garage one morning before school.
That Muslim kid who kept shitting everywhere.
That kid that drew hentai comics for the weirdo weebs at high school, $5 per page. It was me, lads.
That kid who hid "fuck you" in his art project after the teacher yelled at him for goofing off, to only be caught and put in more trouble.
That kid who would try to impress girls by eating grass.
How the fuck will eating grass impress girls?
I would say, your ass is grass and I'm the lawnmower, before doing it.
That one really autistic kid that would spit in his hands and play with it during class.
Those chads who started a grab balls game that lasted a year.
That kid who drew furry porn in the back of copies of 1984 and never got caught. It was me.
That normal girl who had a helicopter accident over the summer and came back to school as a retarded girl. That nerdy black kid who got voted homecoming prince as a joke. That autistic kid who spent all of elementary school and middle school throwing loud tantrums and getting into fights with the staff, who now works at the local grocery store.
That kid who was gay and had a fursuit. That native kid who would draw Overwatch shit. That sporty kid who you thought was a closet gay, but you never found out if he was gay. That fedora skeleton. That new white kid who looked like he was going to shoot up the school if he got touched. That short Mexican girl who everyone called Dora the Explorer. That one bitch who would openly be an asshole to the teach. That one kid with the sunglasses who was high like a kite.
That trap kid who got cream pied by Tyrone in the school bathroom.
That kid who was an open gay tranny and training furry.
That kid who thought being a Gmod server admin was a real job.
That kid who got arrested for choking a girl out. Those kids who compared dicks in the locker room and had a contest to see who could blow a bigger load. That kid who brought a whistle to a school dance and would blow it as loud as he could every time he busted a nut from grinding on a girl. That Jewish kid who drew swastikas on cars. That kid who punched out all the mirrors in a bathroom. That kid who completely obliterated a locker door. That kid who threw uncooked hot dogs into all the lockers that people pinned open. That kid who replaced the teacher's lotion with super glue. That kid who threw a desk at the principal. That kid who would get up on stage and dance during lunch every day. That kid who snorted powdered apple cider.
That kid who opened all the soap dispensers in the bathroom and spit in them. That kid who would spit in the teacher's drinks when they were out of the room. That kid who would turn on the gas for the Bunsen burners without lighting them when the teacher wasn't looking. That kid who traveled with the cross-country team, smoked weed in the hotel, and then rubbed deodorant all over the walls of the hotel room to cover up the smell.
That kid who thought he could beat anyone in a fight because he thought he learned how to snap someone's neck from watching the Hunger Games. That kid who asked out literally every girl in our class and got shot down by all of them and ended up dating a 13-year-old when he was 20. That kid who tried to hang out with the chads and thought he was one of them when really they just kept him around to make fun of him and encourage him to act more retarded. That kid who said he didn't watch porn because he wasn't 18 yet and it would be illegal to watch it. That kid who got beat up in church. That kid who got his 13-year-old girlfriend stolen from him. That kid who told everyone he was moving to Hollywood to become a DJ, director but really still lives here 90% of the time and still hangs out with 14-year-olds.
That kid who fought another kid in band class. That kid who obsessively drew penises everywhere. That kid who tried to loan shark my friend so my friend beat him up. That kid who punched a guy so hard it broke his arm. That kid who was obsessed with the Rocky movies. That girl who was obsessed with dragons. That kid who snorted cocaine before a math test. Those kids who all heckle the leadership kids at every assembly. That kid who got convinced by some older kids to molest a girl when he was like 8 and no one found out until years later when the girl was in therapy for something else and it came up randomly. That kid who was always threatening to kill herself and running away from home but never actually did anything. That girl who died drunk driving.
That kid who the class hated so much and interrupted so many lessons with his bullshit even the teacher got in on bullying him.
That kid who tried to burn down the school.
That kid that did a slideshow presentation for his Minecraft server during the talent show.
That kid who jumped down the massive flight of stairs. Snapped his ankles and head smashed into the brick wall. Brain damaged. That kid who threw up gang signs at random gigs. That kid who did Dragon Ball poses and yells before running the track. That kid who flashed his dick to sophomores and got added to the sex offender registry. Killed himself when he couldn't get a job. That kid who kept a display mic in his backpack and report random shit in the hall. Faced the fucking lockers when speaking. That kid who cited a Pornhub link in a presentation to satisfy list requirement. That kid who Cobained himself.
That kid who would throw pine cones at girls during recess. That kid who set up a mock military platoon of students. That kid who would steal Magic the Gathering cards and draw mustaches on the characters. That kid who would not shut up about how gay they were, then how transgendered they were once she decided she was a boy. That kid who was really preachy about atheism.
That kid who would cry when someone would steal their Pokemon cards.
That girl who was a junior in high school and had already had at least 3 abortions. She wanted my dick at one point but did rather be a virgin for life than stick it anywhere near that. That kid who was selling cocaine in 8th grade. That kid who hanged himself right before Halloween. That kid who had done heroin and died. That security guard who fell over and died one morning before school.
That kid that made a bomb threat to get the day off.
That kid that pretended to go on a date with his white friend's feet during the school lock-in. He actually went all the way with them. Later they met up again. White friend is gay. Other kid is failed normie posting on 4chan, 4th grade. A bunch of kids earn a reward for having academic excellence. It's a school lock-in. Go and eventually find people I know. Find out my real and only friend was there. I liked him because the school was 2/3 black, 0.5/3 Mexican, 0.5/3 white. We were both outcasts in our own way. Begged the teacher to let me sleep in the same classroom as him. Weekend and after a night of sugarless punch, anime IX shorts, crappy early 2000s music we got told it's time to go to our classrooms. Not tired. Gay. Friend starts tickling me. We start playing while everyone else watched High School Musical. For some reason I wanted to kiss him. Do one of those fake threats. If you don't get off I'm gonna kiss you. He starts giggling and lays down on me, the madman. I go into his sleeping bag head first. Easy since we're both really skinny. Get entranced by his bare legs. Want to see more? Take off his socks and kiss his toe. I love you babies. Kiss his soles. All the while he's giggling and wiggling his feet. Apparently I was able to get aroused when I was 9 because I remember thrusting my pelvis against his knee. End up peeing a little. Get told to shut up and get physically torn apart by the monitor. We both sit in timeout smirking at each other. Eventually get back into our sleeping bag and cot and fall asleep next to each other. Epilogue. Left school the year after. Eventually homogenize my way into enough white people that I'm not into them as much. High school. My new friend starts talking about a weird kid named my friend's last name. He clarifies when I ask and I say I know him. New friend says he'll reintroduce us. We meet up in the cafe. Barely recognize each other. He got wider and squat with a ponytail. He pulls me into a hug. Gives me his number. Texts me his secret. Turns out he's gay. Text him it's fine. Don't hear from him ever again.